Hey everybody, David Simmons here, Head of Developer Advocacy at Otterize, and I want to show you some really cool features of Otterize that are absolutely game-changing for network policies. Network policies, as you may or may not know, are great for network segmentation and protecting services from unauthorized access, but they're also really notoriously hard to implement and manage for most people. I'm one of them. So I'm going to show you how you can do it in absolutely no time at all, no muss, no fuss. I have this Kubernetes cluster that has a bunch of services in it. I have already installed Otterize open source on this cluster, which is how I'm able to generate this map. So right now it's showing that basically nothing is protected, all those yellow arrows and yellow boxes. And then if I just protected things because of those yellow arrows, services would be blocked and I'd break my application. Once I installed Otterize, the OSS network mapper started listening on the network inside this cluster, and it mapped which services it heard talking to other services. So it built this map based on what it's seeing in the network traffic. So let's look at what it's telling us. If I protect front end here, I'll see that I'll get blocked because there's no policy that would allow it to receive input from the load generator. So that would shut off my app from the world. And that's exactly not what I want to happen. I'm trying to not break things here. And that's because the protection, the network policies in this case, don't know what's authorized and what's not. And that's exactly what Otterize solves. So let's go ahead and protect our front end services, but let's also allow the load generator to talk to it once it's protected. This is actually going to be a lot easier than you think. What we're going to do is we're going to use the Otterize network mapper and we're going to export from the front end server. So let's see what that looks like. Well, to Otterize network mapper, export server front end Otterize ecom demo. And what that will show us is what's called an intent, a client intent. And that is what the network mapper has observed that the load generator and the front end intend to talk to each other. Intents are what the network mapper sees as what you intend to happen. Since the load generator is talking to the front end service, we assume that this is what you intend to happen, and it's what we will formalize into a network policy. So what I can do is I can run that same command again, and I'll pipe it, this time I'll pipe it straight to kube control. So Otterize network mapper export. And here we can see that immediately this line turns green. And that means that there is a declared intent. So I could go ahead and protect this service and nothing would be blocked, right? So now that we have that, and we can see that that line is green, let's go ahead and protect that service. So what I have here is a small YAML file called protect front end, and I'll show you what that looks like. Basically, it's just declaring that the front end is a protected service in the namespace Otterize ecom demo, right? So if we apply that by using kube control, now it's a protected service. And if we go back to our map, you'll see that this box turned green here, and that is now a protected service. No other service could come in here and start talking to front end without first having declared intents, right? So we've now protected one service. This is the really cool thing about what we're calling bite-size Otterize is I can go through and I can do one service at a time. So I can make sure that I'm not going to break anything by having to protect the whole thing. So that's just the front end service is now protected. So what I've done is I've just applied network policies to a single service in my cluster without a whole lot of rigmarole, right? So now I can do this. I can roll out one service at a time to make sure that everything works as intended as I go. I don't want to break anything. So let's try this again. Let's try and protect this add service up here. Okay. So first we're going to have to generate the client intent for it. So we'll do that. We'll run the network mapper again. Otterize network mapper export add service. And we're going to export it to a YAML file this time, right? And if we cat that YAML file, we'll see that all it does is it declares all of the intents coming out of front end service. So it's declaring everything that front end wants to talk to, intends to talk to. That's why we call them intents, right? And we can then go ahead and apply that, apply add service intents. So we'll apply that file. And if we go look at our graph, you can see that all of these lines turned green because we now have declared intents for them. Right. So now that we have declared that the front end service wants to talk to these services, intends to talk to those services, I can go ahead and I can start protecting them one at a time. And now I could protect everything all at once, but that's sort of that idea of a big red switch that we don't really like, right? We want to do this a little bit at a time. We want to build trust that the tool is actually doing what it says it's going to do. So let's go ahead and protect add service. So I'll show you what the add service YAML looks like. And it's a simple YAML file that's declaring a protected service named add service. So if we apply that with kubectl apply and we watch our graph, we'll be able to see that box turn green, meaning this is now a protected service. So what I'm really doing is I'm rolling out network policies one service at a time, making sure that nothing breaks as I go. So let's try to do the same thing with cart service now. We'll apply to protect cart, and we should see this turn green relatively quickly, and there we go. So you can see I'm moving slowly through my application, protecting service after service after service. We can do the currency service the same way. We'll apply the protect currency YAML, and once again, you'll see that very quickly this service turns green and becomes protected. This is really cool that I can lay this out just one service at a time, right? I don't have to hope and flip the big switch and hope that nothing breaks. And we'll see why that's important in just a second. So let's go ahead and protect the shipping service. Protect shipping. And there we go. We'll see that turn green pretty quickly. There's the shipping service. And let's do that last one, the recommendation service. Kubectl apply, protect recommendation service, YAML, and boom. And there it is, protected. Now, one thing I want to point out is you'll notice that two services talked to the product catalog service, but only one of them has declared an intent. That's why this arrow is yellow. So if we went ahead and protected catalog service right now, the recommendation service would be blocked. And we don't want that. That would break our app. So what we really need to do is declare that the recommendation service intends to talk to the product catalog service first. So let's try that. This time, Otterize network mapper export the product catalog service, and we're just going to pipe that straight to kubectl apply rather than putting into a file. So we can do that. And what we'll see is this arrow should turn green, and there it is. So now all of the intents are declared. Everything's good. I can protect this last service and not break anything in my app. So let's go ahead and do that. Protect catalog service. And boom, there it is. All of my services are now protected, and I was able to do that one service at a time so that I could build the kind of trust that I need to know that the tool is doing what it says it's going to do and that it's going to end up protecting all of my services without breaking anything. So I've just basically rolled out network policies to my entire cluster without having to really know much about network policies, right? And I was able to gain the confidence that I need in the tool and how it's applied to see that it's all going to work as I want it to, right? To me, this is absolutely game changing for rolling out network policy protection in a cluster, because I don't have to flip that big red switch. I don't have to sort of, cross my fingers and hope that I don't break the application and bring down production, right? And trust me, I've brought production down before as well. Nobody wants to be that person, right? So now you can see that I can do it a little bit at a time without breaking things, and while I build the trust that I need to know that it's going to do what I want. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I really think this is cool, and I think you will too. Thanks.